Chapter 6. Someone shook Thomas awake. His eyes snapped open to see a too-closed face staring down at him, everything around them still shadowed by darkness of the early morning. He opened his mouth to speak, but a cold hand clamped down on it, gripping it shut. Panic flared until he saw who it was. "Shh, Greenie! Don't want to be waking Chucky. Now, do we?" It was Newt, the guy who seemed to be a second in command. The air reeked on his morning breath. Though Thomas was surprised, any alarm melted away immediately. He couldn't help being curious, wondering what this boy wanted with him. Thomas nodded, doing his best to say yes with his eyes, until Newt finally took his hand away, then leaning back on his heels. "Come back, Greenie," the tall boy whispered as he stood. He reached down and helped Thomas to his feet. He was so strong it felt like he could rip Thomas' arms off. "Supposed to show you something before the wake up." Any lingering haze of sleep had already vanished from Thomas's mind. "Okay," he said simply, ready to follow. He knew he should hold some suspicion, having no reason to trust anyone yet, but his curiosity won out. He quickly leaned over and slipped on his shoes. "Where are we going?" "Just follow me, and stay close." They snuck their way through the tight-strewn pack of sleeping bodies, though Thomas almost tripping several times. He stepped on someone's hand, earning a sharp cry of pain in return, then punched off the calf. "Sorry," he whispered, ignoring the dirty look from Newt. Once they left the lawn area and stepped onto hard gray stone of the courtyard floor, Newt broke into a run, heading for the western wall. Thomas hesitated at first, wondering why he needed to run, but snapped out of it quickly and followed at the same pace. The light was dim, but any obstacles loomed as darker shadows as he was able to make his way through quickly along. He stopped when Newt did, right next to a massive wall towering above them like a skyscraper. Another random image that floated into a murky pool of his memory wipe. Thomas noticed small red lights flashing here and there along the wall's face, moving about, stopping, turning off and on. "What are those?" he whispered as loudly as he could dare, wondering if his voice sounded as shaky as he felt. The twinkling red glow of the lights had held the undercurrent of warning. Newt stood just over half a meter in front of the thick curtain of ivy on the wall. When you bloody need to know, you'll know, Greenie. Well, it's kind of stupid to send me to a place where nothing makes sense and not answer my questions." Thomas paused, surprised himself. "Shank," he added, throwing all the sarcasm as he could into a syllable. Newt broke out in a laugh, but quickly cut it off. "I like you, Greenie. Now shut it and let me know you have something." Newt stepped forward and dug his hands into thick ivy, spreading several vines away from the wall to reveal the dust-froze window, a square about half a meter wide. It was dark at the moment, as if it had been painted black. "What were you looking for?" Thomas whispered. "Hold your undies, boy. One will be coming along soon enough." A minute passed, then two, then several more. Thomas fidgeted on his feet, wondering how Newt could stand there, perfectly patient and still, staring into nothing but darkness. Then it changed. Glimmers of an eerie light shone through the window. It cast a wavering spectrum of colors into Newt's body and face, as if he stood next to the lighted swimming pool. Thomas grew perfectly still, squinting, trying to make out what was on the other side. A thick lump grew on his throat. "What is that?" he thought. "Out there in the maze," he whispered, eyes wide and in trance. "Everything we do, our whole life, Greenie, revolves around the maze. Every 11 day we spend on honor of the maze, trying to solve something that not shown us in the bloody solutions, you know? And we want to show you why it's not to be messed with. Show you why them bugging walls to shut every night. Show you why you should be never, never find your butt out here." Newt stepped back, still holding to the ivy vines. He gestured for Thomas to take his place and look through the window. Thomas did, leaning forward until his nose could touch the cool surface of the glass. It took a second for his eyes to focus on the moving object on the other side. to look past the grime and dust and see what Newt wanted him to see. And when he did, he felt a breath catch in his throat, like an icy wind blowing down there and frozen the air solid. A large bulbous creature size of a cow, with no distinct shape, twisted and seethed along the ground in the corridor outside. It climbed the opposite wall, then leaped at the thick window with a loud thump. Thomas shrieked before he could stop himself, jerked away from the window, but the thing bounced backwards, leaving the glass undamaged. Thomas sucked in two huge breaths and leaned in once again. It was too dark to make out clearly, but the odd lights flashing on the unknown source, revealing blurs of silver spikes and glistening flesh. Wicked and instrument tipped appendages protrude from his body like arms, a saw blade, a set of shears, long ropes which was purposely could only be guessed. The creature was a horrific mix of an animal and a machine, and seemed to realize that it was being observed, seemed to know what lay inside the walls of the glade, seemed to want to get inside and feast on human flesh. Thomas could felt an icy terror blossom in his chest, expanding like tumor, making it hard to breathe. Even with the memory wipe, he could sure he'd never seen something so truly awful. He stepped back. The courage he had felt the previous evening would melt away. "What is that thing?" he asked. Something shivered in his guts, and he wondered if he'd ever be able to eat again. "Grievers, we call them," Newt answered. "Nasty bugger, eh? Just be glad the Gleavers only come out at night. Be thankful for these walls." Thomas swallowed, wondering how he could ever go out there. His desire to become a runner had to take a major blow, but he had to do it. Somehow he knew that had to do it. It's such an odd thing to feel, especially after what we just seen. Newt looked out the window absently. "Now you know what bloody looks in the maze, my friend. Now you know this isn't joke time. You have been sent to the glade, Greenie, and we'll be expecting you to survive and help us do what we've been sent here to." "And what's that?" Thomas asked. Even in the winter, even though he was terrified to hear the answer. Newt turned to him, his dead in the eye. His first traces of dawn had crept on up him, and Thomas could see every detail on Newt's face, his skin tight, his brow raised. "Find your way out, Greenie," Newt said. "Solve the bug and maze and find our way home." A couple of hours later, the door had reopened, rumbling and grumbling and shaking the ground until they were finished. Thomas sat at a worn, tilted picnic table outside the homestead. All he could think was about the Grievers, what their purpose could be, and what they did out during the night. What it would be like to be attacked by something so terrible. He tried to get the image out of his head, move on to something else. The runners. They just left without saying a word to anybody, bolted into the maze at full speed to disappear around the corners. He pictured them in his mind and picked his eggs and bacon with a fork, speaking to no one, not even Chuck, who ate silently next to him. The poor guy exhausted himself trying to start a conversation with Thomas, who refused to respond. All he wanted was to be left alone. He just didn't get it. His brain was on overload trying to compute the sheer impossibility of his situation. How could a maze, with walls so massive and tall, be so big that dozens of kids haven't even been able to solve it after who knew how long trying? Why could such a structure exist? Well, and more importantly, why? What could possibly be the purpose of such a thing? Were they all here? How long had they been here? Trying as he might to avoid it, his mind still kept wandering back the image of the vicious Grievier. Its phantom brother seemed to leap at him every time he blinked and rubbed his eyes. Thomas knew he was a smart kid. No, he somehow felt it in his bones, but nothing about this place made any sense, except for one thing. He was supposed to be a runner. Why did he feel that so strongly? And even now, after seeing what lived in the maze. A tap on his shoulder jarred him from his thoughts. He looked up and see Albie standing behind him, arms folded. Ain't you looking fresh? Albie said. Get a nice view out the window this morning. Thomas stood, hoping for the time for answers had come, or maybe hoping for a distraction from his gloomy thoughts. Enough to make me want to learn about this place, he said, hoping to avoid provoking his temper as seen a flare in the sky a day before. Albie nodded. Me and you, Shank? The tour begins now. He started to move when it stopped, holding up a finger. No questions till the end. You get me? Ain't got time to draw with you all day. But Thomas stopped when Albie's eyebrows shot up. Why did the guy have to be such a jerk? But tell me everything. I want to know everything. He decided the night before not to tell anyone else how strangely familiar this place seemed. The odd feeling that he'd had before here, that he could remember things about it. Sharing that it seemed like a very bad idea. I'll tell you what I want to tell you. Greenie, let's go. Can I come? Chuck asked from the table. Abby reached down and tweaked the boy's ear. Ouch! Chuck shrieked. Ain't you got a job, Slinthead? Abby asked. Lots of flopping to do. Chuck rolled his eyes, then looked at Thomas. Have fun. I'll try. He suddenly felt sorry for Chuck, wishing people would treat this kid better. But there was nothing he could do about it. It was time to go. He walked away with Albie, hoping the true tour had officially begun.